Hello, I'm Alex Mecklenburg, and I am a co-founder of Consequential. We are a change consultancy, and we help organizations make sense out of change and operate well in change. And the fantastic people from Superhighways have asked me to record a little video to talk you through one of the tools that we use quite a lot. And it is called team role mapping. You're probably all very familiar with mapping tools, so this is using mapping for a specific objective. It is a tool that helps you to support your team dynamics through role exploration. Why do roles matter? Effective roles are critical for the smooth functioning of teams. Roles provide clarity about what is needed to be done, and roles also ensure that important tasks are carried out efficiently with the team. I think we can all agree on that. What is very important is that roles are not people. People step into roles. So this is why I use this analogy quite a lot. For me, roles are like coats. And like coats, some roles fit better than others. That doesn't mean that you cannot theoretically wear every coat. And also, I don't know whether you've ever had a new coat. Sometimes you just have to grow into it. So we're going to talk about that in a minute more. The second thing is that roles belong to the team, not to the individual. Just imagine you're a project manager, you step into a team and you go, "Hey, I want to work with you." It's really important to check whether the team needs a project manager. It's the same thing when you step into a team and you think that you're a great challenger. You have to check in. Does the team need a challenger? And is it the right time to be a challenger? More about this in a minute. So, functional roles is what most people talk about. Project managers, team leads, designers. They define a structural role within the team. They're very often visible in job titles, and they're aligned with so-called hard skills. What this talk is all about is team roles. Some people call them relational roles, and they tend to the relationships in the team. That is their job. They're very often invisible, and they're often aligned with soft skills. And some examples are the challenger, the sense maker, or the carer. A bit more on team roles. If you think about functional roles, task-oriented roles get the job done. Team roles foster the team environment, and that is necessary for high performance. And it is always important to have that healthy balance of both types. Teams are fueled by relationships. That is what makes great organizations, great relationships. And team roles focus to tend those relationships, especially in times of change, in times of conflict, but also day to day. What is really important is that if one person leaves a vital team role, it is necessary that another steps into that to fill the void, to keep the team functioning. That is true for functioning roles, like a project manager, but it is also very true to team roles. Just imagine somebody was holding the role of the visionary, and that person leaves the team. If the role is not being occupied by somebody new, the team will lose a key ability. What is also important is that when change happens, team roles will change. And that is because the team will have different needs to be able to tend their relationships. The relationships might be under strain. The relationships might get a little confused. So in order to be functioning and thriving, the team needs to anticipate what team roles are going to change and what will stay the same. There's lots of models who talk about team roles. Here are two examples, and they use lots of different names. So a team role could be a creator, a maintainer, an advisor. On the right-hand side, you talk about the team worker, the coordinator, the shaper. Do you know what? I always say all models are wrong. Some are helpful because models are human-made. They have their flaws. I would say use your own team language, create your own names for those team roles, and make sure that they relate to everybody in the team. I'm going to introduce the actual mapping tool now. It's a practice of clearly identifying, aligning, and reviewing your relational roles, your team roles, and their responsibilities and contributions to the team. Team role mapping allows teams to proactively reflect on those roles that they currently hold, and also to think about how those contribute to team health and impact. It also helps the team operate more effectively because it creates more connections. It will avoid misalignments and hopefully also burnout. In times of change, team role mapping enables the team to anticipate and design for necessary role changes. And these are great discussions because that will ensure ultimately that teams can deliver in a new environment while staying healthy, supported, and successful. How to use the model. You need time. I would always suggest to time box it. I generally think depending on how you use the tool, you need between 45 minutes and an hour. You will need to work with the whole team. Otherwise, you anticipate roles, and that is never leading to helpful results. You can either do an analog work session with paper, pens, and a flip chart or a whiteboard, or you use Mural or Miro or whatever virtual whiteboard you use. I would recommend to have a facilitator, somebody who's very good holding space, who helps to introduce the team to the concept, but then also captures the themes and moves the team gently if they get stuck at times. And teams ultimately will get stuck because teams are humans and humans are messy. There are 4 steps where you can use team role mapping. Step 1, the team reflects on the team roles that currently exist in the team and how they support the team. Step 2, the team reflects now on who has been holding which roles, and it gives space to talk about personal experiences whilst holding these roles. So, for example, I've been holding the role of the challenger. Here are my learnings. This is what I learned and grew when I held that role. It could also be that I say to the team, you know what, I was holding the role of the challenger for a year. I'm really exhausted. I would love if somebody else could step into that role now. Step 3, the team maps out key phases of the project. And also they're going to map out challenges within a program, for example, and reflects on which of the team roles might need to shift to help the team work through the project. And then step 4, the team discusses who will step into which roles, at what time in the project, and how they will be needed to be supported to hold the role. Now, this can be one work session in 4 steps. Then I do think it's probably half a day of a workshop. But what I used to do is that I design each of those steps as a standalone session. You do whatever feels right for you. I have created some conversation starters for you in each of those steps. So step 1, reflect on existing team roles. Here are some great questions that you can start with. Which team roles exist currently in our team? How do they support us as a team? What do we call them, aligned with our culture and language? Do we talk about the lover or the carer? Do we talk about the fixer or the savior? Do we talk about the protector? Good question. Did we in the past fuse and confuse people with their roles? So did people suddenly become their role? James is going to look after the team because James just looks after people. No. James steps into the role of the carer, and as the role of the carer is looking after the team. And then the other thing is, do we automatically attach certain team roles to certain functional roles? Now that can happen really easily. Just imagine a project manager is often expected to be a starter finisher. A digital manager very often understands themselves as challengers. So it's a good reflection of going, as a digital manager at this time of the project, is it helpful for me to hold the team role of a challenger? Or do I need to explore a different role to help the team because the team has very different needs and really doesn't need more challenge at this moment in time? Step 2, using team role mapping to reflect on personal role experiences. Good questions are, which roles felt familiar or comfortable? Remember the coat. That coat feels familiar, comfortable. I have been wearing that coat quite a lot. Which roles offer opportunity for professional and personal growth? There might be a role that I'm not quite sure about, but I think with the right support, I would love to explore that role. I used to run teams and I had these conversations about team roles in my one-to-one with people. And I said, look, I have observed that you automatically fall into the role of the sense maker. Would it be interesting for you to start to explore another role, maybe the role of the dreamer, and what can I do to help you to start to hold the role of the dreamer? Another question, which roles feel challenging? Is anybody in danger of experiencing role fatigue, feeling stuck in their role, don't want to hold this role anymore? We normally have no space to talk about that. We have space to say, I don't want to be a project manager anymore. This allows you an official space to say, I really don't want to be the challenger anymore. Can somebody else please step into that role? Because the team needs a challenger. It's just that I don't want to do it anymore. And then did we support each and every team role enough? Here's an example. I used a mural for role explorations. At that time, we had 3 kinds of explorations. What is my dream role? What is my growth role? And what is my dread role? And people were able to put their names to these roles. And we could start to explore how we translate that into a healthy team structure. Step 3. So this is using mapping to map out the project phases and to align the necessary team roles. As the project is evolving, which team role might help us deliver against each phase? So imagine in discovery, you probably need people who are incredibly curious, the questioner. You might need somebody who's a dreamer. But if you then need to deliver the pilot, you might actually need a very different role. You need the starter-finisher role. Which of those team roles are familiar for the team? Which of those team roles are new and might need exploration, but also explanation and support? How can we embrace new team roles as a space of personal and professional growth? And might we need support from outside on some of those roles? Here's an example. You have the project steps mapped here, discovery out to rollout. We mapped what roles are really helpful to hold the relationships in the team. The dreamer at the beginning. We needed a protector overall because we were working in an environment that we had a very ambitious CEO. We had a very engaged board. So we needed somebody to create a space for us to work. And we had a very good conversation about which roles are we not good in holding because we might not have the right experience, and can we go outside of the team to ask somebody to hold that role for us? Step 4. So that would be using mapping to discuss who will hold which roles and when. So good questions here are, who's interested and motivated to step into the team role? What do they bring to the team? My personal skills as a challenger, is that helpful for the team at this moment in time? But also, how does the team and the lead enable those people to step into a new team role? How can I learn to look after relationships in a different way? Here's an example. We mapped all the roles that we had agreed that we would need in the team. And then we started to get people to just indicate the roles that they would love to hold. And we identified where did we have gaps. We discussed it. At the end of the session, we had every single role aligned. The tips involve everybody. Make it truly participatory to avoid assumptions. Revisit that regularly because roles shift with projects, so update continuously. And then always link to goals. Always ask, how does this role help team dynamics? And also, how does this role contribute to our team's mission and to the project objective? Why do I think the model is helpful? Well, I've been working with it for years, and the feedback I get from teams, especially when they are under stress, has been incredibly encouraging. What I hear is that it reminds people as a team is fueled by relationships. Teams are about relationships, and that needs focus, and that there need to be roles that are not just doing a thing, but also tend those relationships, especially in times of change. I heard that the tool helps people to remind themselves that roles are not people, and help teams to avoid role exhaustion or role fatigue. What I also heard was that it really helped ensure that the team had the right relational support to help them through change and deliver without team burnout. So it gave them language to talk about this. And then the last point I hear again and again and again, that it is a great opportunity for growth outside of traditional spaces like promotions and expanded job titles. So use it in your one-on-ones and encourage people to start to be curious about different team roles. Ultimately, and we have proof for that, teams that establish team mapping practices feel more connected, more valued, and more supported behind collective goals. And well, that boosts performance and resilience and really minimizes conflict and burnout. As with every tool, please feel free to experiment. I gave you 4 steps that you can use in one big session, but you can use them as standalone. You might use this tool in a completely different experience. I have started to check how I can use it in retros, and it actually works. I would love to hear from you how you are starting to build that tool into your existing rhythms and routines. And please adjust and evolve as you're learning. I would thank you so much for watching. Again, my name is Alex Mecklenburg. If you have any questions, you want to share something with me, drop me a note. And if you want to give feedback to the fantastic people of Superhighways, there's their address too. I wish you a wonderful, wonderful day. And I really hope that you're starting to get curious about the relationships that are in your team and how you can build those relationships and tend to them. Goodbye.